Ghana Tonight is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.
Hello and good evening. Welcome. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live from the news about Desawe Kanda, also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSTV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com. I'm Alfred Ocansey. Tonight, we put some scrutiny to President John Dramani Mahama's State of the Nation address and also some reactions to some of the issues that he put out there relating to the true state of the economy, the construction sector, and more. Stay with us on Ghana Tonight. Also, President John Dramani Mahama has charged state security to declare some persons wanted in respect of some allegations and pursue them as part of the Operation Recover or Loot policy. We hear from anti-corruption crusaders how they react to this, and have some updates on the tragic killing of a final year biological science student of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. We'll give you details shortly. Stay with us. As always, we're live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, and let's settle for Ghana Briefs.
President John Mahama has affirmed his resolve to take the country out of economic mess with a promise to give prosperity for all. The president has therefore extended an olive branch to well-meaning Ghanaians to voluntarily avail themselves in the rebuilding process. The president made these known as he presented his maiden State of the Nation address to Parliament.
Yesterday, February 26, 2025, marks exactly 10 years since I stood in this chamber at this very spot to declare my determination to fix Dumso, a legacy problem of power shortages. And Mr. Speaker, I fixed it. I am moved to make a similar purposeful and bold declaration that I, John Dramani Mahama, I will fix the economic crisis confronting our country and reset it on a path of growth and prosperity.
President John Dramani Mahama has strongly indicated that he is committed to enhancing the legal framework surrounding disability rights by passing the Persons with Disability Amendment Bill. Addressing Parliament in his first State of the Nation's address earlier today, President Mahama reiterates that government intends to ensure the implementation of the legislation that enjoins public and private employers to reserve 5% of their employments for persons with disabilities.
Mr. Speaker, the government intends to ensure the implementation of legislation that enjoins public and private employers to reserve 5% of their employment for persons with disabilities.
The minority in Parliament says that John Mahama did not deliver the true state of the economy, a position which has since been challenged by their majority counterparts. But the minority insists assertions of a mismanaged economy under the MPP administration are not true.
Just last year, the economy, to a large extent, had been restored.
I don't think there's hope for anybody because all that I listened to were lamentations. If you are lamenting, you have been given the mantle and you claim that you have been given a resounding victory, then fix it.
Driver unions in Koporidua have expressed their support for the president's Big Push program, which aims to rehabilitate roads and reintroduce road tolls using modern technology. In response to the president's recent State of the Nation's address, the unions acknowledged that implementing these initiatives would significantly improve the efficiency of the transport system.
The road toll issue, I would like the government or whoever is going to implement it to at least make the lines 8 or 7 in every site or every place that the toll is going to be, not only 2 or 3 lanes, because now we have developed, the country has been developed. We have so many cars that goes up and down. If the road is 2 lanes, can you imagine how many traffic we are going to face? So it's supposed to be at least 8 lanes, 6 lanes, 5 lanes along the toll area.
The Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, KNUST, has confirmed the arrest of the prime suspect in the alleged tragic murder of final-year biological sciences student Joanna Deladem Yabani. According to the university, the suspect, a fellow student who resided in the same hostel as the deceased, was apprehended by the regional police. The arrest follows an extensive review of CCTV footage, which provided critical evidence. Authorities also found clothing worn during the crime in the suspect's possession, which has been retrieved as evidence.
Well, there's more news on 3news.com. This is Ghana Tonight. Coming up next, we put to scrutiny President John Mahama's State of the Nation address, the first in his second term as president, in matters relating to the true state of the economy, the construction and roads sector, and also anti-corruption. Those are the first 3, in fact 4 areas we're going to be looking at tonight. And as I indicated to you earlier, we're going to be having a segmented approach to the analysis of President John Mahama's State of the Nation address as put out earlier today. The president has been speaking about the state of the construction sector in his State of the Nation address. Earlier today, he talks about the roads that have been constructed, as was earlier touted by the former president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, and what they came to meet, with specific reference to how much road contractors are owed as we speak. Take a look.
While the previous government has made lofty claims about achieving unprecedented milestones in the road sector, available evidence does not support its assertion that it constructed over 13,000 kilometers of new roads. Instead, it has perpetuated a narrative that presents road maintenance and rehabilitation efforts as new construction projects, misleading the public about what has been achieved. The proportion of poor roads has increased, especially in urban centers, where the number of roads in disrepair surged from 46% in 2015 to almost 60% by 2021. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, our road sector is in crisis, mainly due to years of mismanagement. As many as 85% of awarded contracts in the road sector have stalled, and the contractors have stopped work due to non-payment, and most of them have packed their equipment off-site. Mr. Speaker, as of December 2024, unpaid bills owed to contractors in the sector exceeded 20 billion Ghana cedis for work that had been carried out between 2018 and 2024. For instance, the Ghana Road Fund obtained a loan of 600 million Ghana cedis in March 2018 to refinance outstanding debts and borrowed an additional 1.2 billion Ghana cedis from a syndication of banks in November 2019.
So that's President John Mahama and his verdict on the state of the nation, specifically with respect to road construction. And that's direct contrast to what the former president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, told us during his last State of the Nation address. And this also was a matter of reference for the NPP MPs, because they say that what the President John Mahama said is not the true state of the road sector. That what he's saying cannot be the case. They go with what the former president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, said. So here's what we're going to do. We'll bring in the stakeholders, the people who know these sectors and operate in the sector, to tell us what's happening there. The president says over 85% of the road contracts have stalled because of non-payment of contractors, road contractors, and that roads that are in disrepair, 46 to 60%. Emmanuel Cherry is the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Chamber of Construction Industry, and that's a chamber that has a number of these road contractors as members. He's joining us on Zoom right now. Mr. Cherry, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. I want to find out from you, which side of the pendulum your situation really swings to, and whose report would you believe? The former president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, says that thousands of roads have been constructed by yourselves, and then the debts have been dealt with. And then the president, John Mahama, who says that you and your members, you have packed out and left site because you are owed so much money. What's happening?
Yeah, the president is right on point as a result of the challenges that the industry players face to the larger or the bigger client that we have as an industry player in terms of government. So government, as we speak, that's a successive government. They can't play their beats, and then they do what they think they can do best, leave the rest, another person comes and continue. So the previous administration leaving, he has left a debt portfolio very huge on the table for these very administrations to come and clear. So therefore, as a government in power, your responsibility is to inherit both assets and liability. So the debt portfolio is part of the assets and the liability that he has inherited. So all you need to do is for him to find out the best way of settling this particular outstanding that he has been bequeathed to.
So is it the case that you pre-finance the road contracts that you are awarded, or government awards you, and then later you raise certificates to go and get a refund of the money you used to pre-finance these roads that are being constructed?
Yeah, that is the norm of contract we encountering in the country today. Before, it was mobilization. That's government will pre-finance, give you a percentage of the contract sum for you to go work, raise certificate, justify that the amount given, you have been able to utilize it, and therefore you are qualified for, disbursement of continuation, for continuation. But this time around, it isn't that way any longer. So what therefore happened is, you, the contractor, after signing your contract, your responsibility is to go and look for funding. So your funding must cater for the contract terms. Some of the contract dictates that if you should raise certificate with a magnitude of 20% of the contract sum, 30% or 15%, depending upon the contract that you have signed, then you show proof of work done on paper and signed or approved by the site engineer or project supervisor representing the client before you are eligible to be honored. That certificate is eligible to be honored. Today, upon those particular exercise, those rudiments that contractors normally go through, after raising certificate and submitting the certificate of claim, instead of 91 days, which has been extended to 180 days, today, instead of 180 days, the certificate travels to 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, still counting. That is the challenge contractors are facing today as a business community and a professional. So therefore, if it happens this way, at times, you, the contractor who goes to the financial market to look for money to refinance the project, you end up losing because the financial market is also selling money to you with an interest. So if you default, what then happens is they start calculating panel interest upon that default. So that is the challenge construction industry players are being faced today. Most of them use their materials, that's their properties, houses and cars and what have you, their lands as a collateral against those facilities. Because governments in a, how do you call it, a indebtedness to the contractor who has also defaulted to the financial institution, what then happens is the financial institution fall on the collateral that being used, the asset the contractor used, and they sell it out to take away their money. So instead of a contractor moving forward as a result of business gain, you therefore go backwards. Why? Because government was unable to pay you on time, and therefore you are going to lose your property used as a collateral. This is a challenge, the true picture of construction industry today as a country.
I see, but are you able to, let's understand this, are you able to tell us exactly how much you are owed? And by this I'm talking about you, the contractors, road contractors who have been given government contracts, you pre-finance, and you're yet to be paid as we speak. How much?
Our record at that time, we were thinking that it's 15 billion plus. Until recent, that change of government came in. That handing over note, we just discovered that, not knowing, they were trying to massage the figures. The actual figure on the table now is 35 billion Ghana cedis in debt.
35 billion cedis in debt. And you said earlier you thought it was 15 billion cedis. Now, after the change of government, you've seen that you actually owe 35 billion. How come? That's 20 billion difference. How come?
Which means the ministry has been unfair to us in the past by not disclosing certain information to us. Until recent that we got to know that this is the actual true picture on the ground.
I see. So is it that 20 billion cedis that we hear the president talk about in that video we just played, the State of Nation address, because it talks about some 20 billion cedis debt owed you over a certain period. So knowing this now, what are you going to do next?
The best we can do is to engage the current administration, which have already started. And thankfully, the president, through the minister, has given his promise that he's going to uncap the road fund. You know, the most ironic aspect of the whole thing is, in as much as the road sector has heavily been slapped with this huge amount of debt, still the previous government has put a cap on the little money that comes to the kitty for them to use to turn around the fortunes of the sector. They cap it and divert that money into a different sector, and that is what has bedeviled the sector up to today. At the same time, because they were not able to raise enough money to take care of the agencies, the ministries and the departments under the Ministry of Roads and Highways, what they do is they go into the financial market also to look for money. They borrow money against the shortfalls and we pay with an interest. What kind of administration is this? So thankfully, the new administration led by His Excellency John Dramani Mahama has given an assurance that it's going to uncap the road fund, making sure the full revenue that comes will be used to take care of the sector in terms of payments of works done, that's routine maintenance, potholes patches and what have you, wayside weeding and what have you. All those things will be taken care of by this particular fund. In addition, they are trying to reintroduce the modernized digital road tool that will be introduced into the country. We met the minister last week. All these issues were trashed out. We'll be having a bigger stakeholder and for a forum for us to at least come out with a proper direction and then each execution as well accordingly. So in as much as we are being saddled with debt, we have no choice than to help the current administration to rake in money to pay us, because if you don't assist them for them to come out of this, to maneuver and navigate their way out, we are going to be at the losing end. And we have the technical expertise to assist if only the doors are open to us for us to come in.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I appreciate you for this, and thank you for this information that you give to us, the detail as to how much you're owed, and then with the state of affairs when it comes to you, the road contractors who are pre-finance government projects and you're yet to be paid. Emmanuel Cherry is CEO of the Ghana Chamber of Construction Industry. And as a matter of fact, corroborating what the president said at the State of the Nation address earlier today. But that leads us to our next issue, which is another aspect of the State of the Nation address, which we're analyzing tonight. President John Dramani Mahama has charged state security to declare some persons wanted in respect of some allegations and pursue them as part of the Operation Recover All Loot policy. We'll hear from anti-corruption crusaders how they are reacting to this statement by the president earlier today. Let's still stay on this, on the State of the Nation address as delivered by the president. He has indicated that his resolve and his government to recover all loot, calling for the security agencies to act swiftly, to take action in respect of the National Service Ghost Names scandal. This is one that we've been keeping an eye on over the last 3 weeks here on TV3. But this is what the president said. We'll take a look at exactly what he put out there and the charge that he has given to the various anti-corruption agencies in respect of getting into this matter.
As part of our Operation Recover All the Loot policy, ORA, I've already tasked our investigative bodies to bring the culprits of the National Service Ghost Name scandal to justice. Such brazen theft of public funds must not go unpunished. It is estimated that the criminal addition of some more than 80,000 ghost names could have yielded the suspects over 50 million Ghana cedis every month. Unfortunately, some of these suspects are believed to have absconded from the country already. I have directed that they be declared wanted and their assets traced and frozen until investigations are completed.
That's the president there. And Mary Awolana Ada is Executive Director of the Ghana Integrity Initiative, joining us on Zoom right now. Madam, appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. You heard the president there on this National Service Ghost Name scandal. He says this is a result of the Operation Recover All Loot initial, that's a preparatory team's work, because this scandal was captured in their report that they submitted to him, about 2,000, these reports that they put in that particular statement that they gave to the president. He's issued a directive to have the persons who have not yet been invited be declared wanted. How did that strike you?
Thank you very much, Alfred. Let me greet your viewers and to say thank you for having me. I believe that this pronouncement by the president, particularly in the SONA, the State of the Nation, is one that we must all be commending him for, that he instituted a policy intervention that is yielding some fruits. I say a policy intervention because oral is not just a committee. Oral spans a longer period, and this is already demonstrating that apart from receiving the complaints, some investigations would go into them, and then the next stages are happening. I'm particularly happy that apart from the talk, now we are seeing action, meaning investigations have concluded and there is beyond reasonable doubt that some people must answer questions. That's my assumption per the confidence with which the president has presented this in the State of the Nation address. And so, as I have said before, if people are complicit, certainly they must be taken through the process to prove their innocence or otherwise. I have had the opportunity to also hear some of the people who worked in the National Service scheme talk about their issues, trying to explain. So this is a good opportunity to then do so. They must be called to accountability, because people who are given the chance to rule must be accountable to those who gave it to them. And so today, if the National Service one is spoken to, then it shows that it is a good thing. Alfred, let me say again that I heard the president committing to ensuring that the budget that is coming out would resource the anti-corruption institutions. That means they would have more resources to then pour into some of these were reported to the oral. He mentions the numbers, and he mentions that he would give some resources to these institutions to strengthen them and also make them function effectively. This is his call. Let us hold the president to that commitment, and let's hope that it is done. The budget, after all, is just a few days away, and so we hope to see that. Again, he says something about establishing an office within the presidency. There, I'm wondering, there is an anti-corruption advisor who has been appointed. That is Professor Dodu, if I'm correct. I'm wondering if that is within his mandate, or it is the oral committee sort of, which is going to be further entrenched at the presidency. In all of it, what we want is more reports of wrongdoing. And so wherever it is situated, we believe that it should be given the needed resources to ensure that they are doing their work. And the people of Ghana must also be commended for making their inputs. So whether it is in the presidency, it is at the office of the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, it is at SHRAJ or the Audit Service or OSP, what we see out of this is the fact that this country wants to fight corruption. Right. Whether it is after the fact or for office holders now who do anything that warrants investigation, prosecution, and sanctioning.
Great. And apart from this National Service ghost name scandal, which he says is giving some instructions on, he also references the recent invitations by the National Intelligence Bureau regarding this SkyTrain botched deal, this contract, and the monies that have not been accounted for in that regard. Listening to him talk about his resolve to fight corruption in the next 4 years that he has, did that convince you?
So for me, we were looking at some things which were not spoken to. So he said he pledges to fight corruption and implement far-reaching reforms that will eventually achieve the sustainable zero tolerance for corruption, zero tolerance policy against corruption. I may be the only one who may be asking for more, because he says the government was going to demonstrate a strong commitment and abhorrence of corruption, and in that he pledged to fight corruption by implementing far-reaching measures and reforms. So what are some of these? For me, the far-reaching measures is a summary. I would have wanted to hear that the president is going to ensure that we get the Conduct of Public Officers Bill passed into law to ensure that we strengthen the asset declaration regime, we strengthen the conflict of interest regime, and strengthen a policy on gift giving for those two to then be criminal offenses as well. I mean, conflict of interest and the gift issues. I would have also wanted, with the president's numbers in parliament, to have heard that these far-reaching measures include the expansion of the definition of corruption to include illicit enrichment and others. So we would then be going into the Criminal Offences Act to ensure that we expand the definition of corruption, so that going forward, some of the investigations would have more teeth to bite. Otherwise, we would not do that, and then we get to a stage where we have challenges with prosecutions because some of the offenses may not fit or may not fit the test when it comes to prosecution. So those were some of the details we would have wanted to hear. But so far as he says far-reaching, this is more than a 50-page, almost 60 or so that he had to read. But I was thinking that if he had added more, that would have been good, because these are the initial issues that we need to ensure that we deal with. And again, because the Constitutional Review Committee is currently doing work, I believe that the president missed the opportunity of talking about the review of also the Constitution when it comes to the area of conduct of public officers, that whole chapter, which I mentioned in the legislations, the chapter on asset declaration, general conduct, including assets, including conflicts, and then also normal gift-giving culture of the public service. So those are three key issues that I believe were not spelled out in this, which should have been. But on the whole, the president has demonstrated that he is going to fight corruption. So let's see from the budget, let's see from the actions going forward how these are going to be executed.
Let's see. You've enumerated a number of the policies that you did not hear, including, for instance, the asset declaration and all. But how about the ones that he spoke about, what you heard, or what he did touch on with respect to the fight against corruption? How convincing are they for you in this fight going forward?
For me, the fact that he mentioned issues around collaborating with the justice delivery value chain to ensure that we fight corruption very well, or working closely with the Chief Justice to combat corruption, it's in the right direction. These are two arms of government. One deals with the justice delivery, and the other is the executive. They are independent, but there is no where we go to in this world where we do not see collaboration. Collaboration is very good. To what extent, we do not know, but we believe that if we are able to depoliticize the delivery of justice, and if they are able to collaborate effectively, it will inure to the benefit of the fight against corruption, because we'll see expeditious delivery of justice, and we'll see a justice system which is independent and people trust more. And I believe that was very good. Also, the fact that he says he will continue to ensure that they receive the corruption complaints at even the presidency means that this is something that is close to his heart and he would want to superintend over. If we have leaders who are doing that, we should all support and give them the needed support to do so very effectively.
Right.
And he pledged, people have pledged in the past, but we haven't seen much happen. So for me, pledging is heartwarming to hear, but we would want to see how this pans out.
Mary, appreciate you for this. And You talk about keeping an eye on all what he has said, and that's exactly what we're going to be doing here on TV3. Thank you so much. Mary Ada is Executive Director of the Ghana Integrity Initiative, local chapter of Transparency International, one of the foremost CSOs in the anti-corruption space that we have in this country. But the president, beyond this National Service ghost name scandal and the SkyTrain, he talks more about oral and what he intends to do going forward. Take a look.
Mr. Speaker, I pledge to fight corruption head-on by implementing Operation Recover All the Loot, oral. In that regard, Mr. Speaker, one of the first committees I established, even before my investiture as president, was to establish the oral committee on the sidelines of our transition. It is instructive to announce that the committee received over 2,000 complaints from the public and has since handed over a comprehensive report. This report has been given to the Attorney General for further review, thorough investigation, and eventual prosecutions. Mr. Speaker, the recent arrest related to the unwarranted payment of $2 million of Ghanaian taxpayers' money in the SkyTrain saga, and then also the National Service ghost name scandal, mark only the beginning of a comprehensive response based on the oral committee's findings.
That's the president there. Now, when we're back after this quick break, the economy is heavy on our radar tonight, while the president and the majority in parliament make the case that the economy was poorly managed under the ex-Wal Akufo-Addo-Bawumia-led NPP government. The minority would not take any of that. They insist that the NPP government handed over a sound, working, growing economy to President John Mahama. But what really is a true state of the economy? Stay with us. We'll have a conversation on the economy after this.
Hello, my friends. My name is Calcate Toothpaste. Wow. I was made to be gentle on your gum, but protected. I will protect your teeth from cavity, make your teeth whiter, stronger, keep your mouth fresh all day. And best of all, I'm strawberry flavored. So put on a smile and try me.
That's amazing.
Just try me. That's my job.
If you say so, jump on my brush. Make your teeth stronger, whiter.
Welcome back. This is Ghana Tonight. While the president and the majority in parliament to make the case that the economy was poorly managed under the Eswal Akufo-Addo-led NPP government, the minority would have nothing of that particular statement. They're saying that they would not agree. They insist the NPP government handed over a sound, working, growing economy to the president, John Dramani Mahama. But what really is the state of the economy? Let's hear from the president, his verdict after he was handed over to by the former president, Nana Addo Akufo-Addo. Take a look.
Yesterday, February 26, 2025, marks exactly 10 years since I stood in this chamber at this very spot to declare my determination to fix Dumso, a legacy problem of power shortages. And Mr. Speaker, I fixed it. Yes, I promised to fix it, and I did. And I wish to place firmly on record that from January 2016 until I handed over the administration of this country on January 7, 2017, there was no power rationing or load management in Ghana. Mr. Speaker, today, inspired by the Almighty God and propelled by the massive mandate given to me by the good people of Ghana, I am moved to make a similar purposeful and bold declaration that I, John Dramani Mahama, I will fix the economic crisis confronting our country and reset it on a path of growth and prosperity. That I will fix the economic crisis confronting our country and reset it on a path of growth and prosperity. My government, working with you and every Ghanaian, will solve the challenges because we have developed the plan with our people's support. When I decided to run for president again, I did so because of what I knew about the state of our country. I was aware that huge problems awaited me upon assumption of office, but nothing could prepare anyone for the reality of the depths to which our economy and our governance had sunk. Our elders say that a frog's true length can be ascertained only after it has died. Apotrowa ni ehun etintin. And how right they were. It is common knowledge that our economy is in dire straits, which is putting it mildly, because an initial assessment of the books we have discovered, after initial assessment of the books, we have discovered that our economic problems are much deeper than was previously known. We have inherited a country that is broken on many fronts. The profundities of the challenges confronting us are staggering. We are saddled with staggering debts and glaring signs of almost deliberate and, in some cases, reckless mismanagement of our resources. Mr. Speaker, not even the restraints of an IMF program were enough for the previous economic managers to exercise prudence in managing our finances. After setting an inflation target of 18% by the end of 2024, the actual outturn was 23.8%, significantly higher than the threshold agreed with the IMF. The Ghana cedi continued its downward slide, losing 19% of its value against the dollar in 2024.
That's the president, John Dramani Mahama, there. And as was expected, this verdict of the state of the economy that he put out there was contested by the NPP. But then again, let me give you these highlights. This was what he put out, as we saw there. The treasury bill rates now decreased with the 91-day bill falling from 28.5%. That's the interest on these treasury bills, falling from 28.5 to 24.48. And there's a reason that we saw this continuous rise in the interest on the 91-day treasuries, because after the domestic debt exchange program, the only source that the ex-war administration could borrow from was the domestic market, because we had been shut out of the international market, and we all know the story and how things have played out. And so there had to be the continuous increase of the interest on these 91-day treasury bills to attract more money. But even that, there were instances where government did not meet the expectation as was put out there. But we see the continuous decrease in the interest over the last at least 2 to 3 months now. Now, debt servicing for the next 4 years, the president put the figure to 280 billion cedis. That's what we're going to pay for not the principal. And you need to understand this, that this 280 billion is just the interest on our debt. It is not the debt amount itself. So that's another concern, that if you look at the financial analysts watching the market and how things are playing out, you look at this amount of money over the next 4 years going to be spent on just servicing, as in paying the interest on our debts. That's worrying, to say the least. And so with that, if you break this 280 down, 150 billion cedis is going to be paid in terms of servicing our domestic debts, and a little over 130 billion cedis on our external debts. And bear in mind that we're still under this IMF program, and we're still going to grapple with this debt situation, the public debt situation, as we have it. Quite apart from that, you heard the president talk about the inflation targets. Even though last year, end-year inflation target was 18%, we ended last year with 23.8%. Public debt stands at over 721 billion Ghana cedis. And this is a little lower than what the Bank of Ghana put out there. But then again, you can understand why the president goes for this figure. And then also he talks about the depreciation of the cedi as well, as we have seen. And the cedi is still not doing well against the dollar. Dr. Stephen Amoah, who is a member of parliament for the Inshaeso constituency, a former deputy finance minister in the Kufuor administration, said the president did not give the true state of the economy that they, the NPP, handed over to him on the 7th of January, 2025. Take a look.
This is an established fact, and it was a global challenge. That time, the global economy grew negative 3.3. You can go and check. Global inflation rate post-COVID increased by over 200%. So we realized that the Ghanaian economy, as well as the global economy, had challenges. This is a fact. But have you also forgotten that because of these challenges, Ghanaians at a point in time were asked to stay home and they were paid. In fact, the private sector sacked over 40,000 people. We had revenue shortfall of about 12 billion Ghana cedis. So we're using debt financing. Our debt to GDP went up. That is a fact. This was a global crisis. But when we were leaving power just last year, the economy to a large extent had been restored. This is a fact. In fact, our GDP had grown provisionally 6.3%.
So you think all of these things?
By November 2024, the economy had grown 6.3%, almost twice as 2016, 3.4. Agric, industry, services were growing 2.7, 4.3, and low numbers. But they were all growing 4.5, over 8%, 5% when we're handing over power to them. So what we are saying is, the president is not telling Ghanaians the true state of the economy.
He's not telling us the true state of the economy.
We didn't leave doom for them. Now they are even sacking public service and civil servants. Nurses and teachers are being sacked.
They say you didn't budget to pay these individuals you employed, and so there was no budgetary allocation for them, and so
almost 1 year. Some of them 1 year. Government is continuity. The Constitution of Ghana states without any ambiguity that every citizen must enjoy his fundamental human rights, and one of them is to have access to state facilities. Why are they doing selective justice? Equality before the law, Article 17. So the state, look, railway sector, it is unprecedented in the history of this country.
The work that was done.
The work that
he acknowledged that and said that the Mpakadan railway.
That's the former Deputy Finance Minister. That's Dr. Stephen Amoah, is a member of Parliament for the Inshasu constituency. Let's bring in Professor Patrick Esuming. He's an economist and a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us. You heard the President deliver a State of the Nation there. As you just heard, Dr. Stephen Amoah as well, challenging the President's verdict on the state of the economy that he was bequeathed by the Akufo-Addo-led administration. But you know what the health of the economy is beyond this back and forth. Whose report will you believe?
I don't know which aspects of the President's presentation they are disputing. I don't know if they are disputing the debt numbers or the inflation numbers or the currency numbers, or they argue that the President didn't talk about the fact that in the first 3 quarters, the economy's growth was higher than expectation. Now, whichever way you look at it, I think just under two months ago, when the then outgoing President gave his last State of the Nation address and said the economy was strong. You know, I was one of the people who disputed that. I think many people disputed that because we knew that the economy is not strong.
I see. But essentially, the MPP's contention is how the economy that they handed over to the President, John Mahama, is described by the President as being badly and criminally managed. They said that cannot be the case and that the economy was growing.
Well, I think, you know, let's start with what the statistics and the indicators the President gave. He spoke about what the debt is. Indeed, I think even the debt number he quoted is a little lower than the one we last saw from the Bank of Ghana. So I don't know whether they are disputing the debt numbers or they are disputing the inflation number that was given or the exchange rate. I mean, whichever way you look at it, I think, you know, just over 8 weeks or so ago, the former president, when he was hesitant, gave an assessment of the economy he was delivering for the current administration and described it in glowing terms. Now, I think between the two, I think the president's presentation today gives a more, or his depiction of the economy is closer to the reality than what the former president said, that the economy was strong. The economy is not strong. The economy is in a very difficult situation. I think what I've heard the former administration say is that the presentation ignored the fact that the GDP for the last quarter, the first 3 quarters of last year were much stronger. Indeed, those numbers were the strongest we've seen since 2019. I think the only problem is that even within that strong growth, I think when you begin to disaggregate them, you begin to see real problems. The 3 main sectors that have driven the growth, the extractive sector, i.e. mining, construction, and ICT. I think perhaps construction has stronger linkages to other sectors of the economy, but mining is more or less an enclave sector, which is primarily controlled by non-Ghanaians, with very little Ghanaian participation. And the growth in that sector has been driven by new mines that have opened up and, reopening of some old mines. So you can hardly, and then of course, part of it could well be attributed to mines that are destroying the forest, our water bodies and forests. So I think that is one side. Which sectors are growing and to what extent are those impacting Ghanaians? That's one issue. The other issue related to that is even cocoa sector, one of the most important sectors for us, is seeing massive contraction through those quarters. Then you look at the inflation number that we've been seeing, the fact that food inflation and inflation of domestically produced items, locally produced items, are way higher than their counterparts. So if you put all of this together, if someone comes to tell me, well, agric is doing well, crops are doing well, and I still see food inflation going up, you can hardly convince me that the economy is doing well. So that is the real sector and how things are going. But if you look at the country's finances, we are in more difficult state than we think. And I think that one of the issues is that, in the first 1.5 years of implementing the IMF program, the strategy choices of the government have been problematic. It's something I've said repeatedly. What the former government did is to, focus on generating more revenues by imposing a lot of taxes. That's increased the cost of doing business, and that's really weakened the private sector. We see the difficulties that the debt restructuring has brought banking system. Credit growth for a long time has been negative. So I think, and the fact that we haven't done the most important things that will put our public finances in a sustainable path, I think those are issues. So when you put all of this together, it's hard to argue with the president when he says that the economy is in difficult times. Regardless of what, the IMF will use the growth, first 3 quarters of growth, and say the economy is more resilient than they thought. You can say that all you want. I mean, I think if you look at other data that says that more people are becoming vulnerable to or becoming food insecure, or if you look at some of the data released by the Ghana Statistical Service showing the fraction of people who are facing different kinds of multiple vulnerabilities, or the fact that the economy is not creating jobs.
And it's always the case that when you talk about the economy, it's a lot more about how people feel and not so much about what you're saying or telling them. But I appreciate you for this. Professor Patrick Esuming is a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School, an economist as well. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. The conversation on these aspects, as we have just touched on, continues. We'll look at the different sectors tomorrow on Ghana Tonight. But before we go, there's a press release from the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Just going to read to you about an update on the death of Miss Joanna Deladem Yabani. Further to their earlier press release on this tragic incident, they wish to inform the university community that a suspect believed to be the mastermind behind the gruesome murder of Miss Joanna Deladem Yabani, a final year biological science student at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, has been apprehended by the regional police for interrogation following a thorough review of our internal CCTV footages. The suspect, identified as a fellow student residing in the same hostel as the deceased, was found in possession of the clothing worn during the crime, which has been retrieved as evidence. We appeal to all students and members of the university community to remain calm as the police continue their diligent investigations to uncover the full details surrounding this unfortunate incident. The management of KNUST, in collaboration with the security services and the regional police command, led by the IGP himself, is taking all necessary measures to ensure the safety and security of students and the entire university community. To this end, security has been significantly reinforced with over 50 police officers deployed across the campus, 5 mobile police patrol teams from the anti-robbery squad, 34 patrol officers from the SWAT unit in the Ashanti region, additional security personnel stationed at strategic locations. So that's what's happening. There's more on this on 3news.com. Join the team tomorrow morning. My name is Alfred Ocansey. Have a good night.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.
La